Leadership quality education. Initiative of machinery, the world's largest computing society. Its aim is to deliver technical excellence through its various events such as ACM Hackathon, DSN Launchpad, ACM Talks, and various social and technical initiatives. ACM to inspire students to learn, inspire, and excel in the field of technology. Thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you all an enriching and wonderful session ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Masuman, for sharing those valuable insights. And now it's time to introduce the inspiring person who will be speaking with us today.
We are honored to welcome Mr. Gajendra Deshpande, founder and managing director of Theta Dynamics, Odoo consultant, corporate trainer, ACM India Eminent speaker, and chair of the in the field of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, software development, and professional training, inspiring countless students and professionals. It is a privilege to have such an accomplished leader and mentor with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm and hearty welcome to Mr. Gajendra Deshpande.
This year's talk, The Dark Side of Design, Conquering Anti-Patterns, explores one of the identifying and avoiding common design mistakes that lead to inefficient and difficult to maintain systems. We will gain valuable insights into building scalable, robust, and high-quality software. We hope this talk inspires learning and innovation among all of us.
Now, I invite our respected Deputy Director, Dr.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Dignitaries on the dais, expert of today's session, Gajendra Deshpande ji, Dr. Sam Madam, HOD IT, Dr. Chavan sir, faculty present here, and dear students friends. First of all, I congratulate the ACM student chapter of Walchand College of Engineering Sangli for organizing expert lecture on dark side of the software design. This is a very nice topic because whenever you are going to do any design is applicable for all fields, not only for software. It is applicable for mechanical design, even in civil construction design is there, electrical layout design is also there. So design plays most important role in engineering life and for the common man, because based on the design of software or design of any kind of the activity, it will give you idea about the lifespan of that software, about the lifespan of any product. It will also give how it is user friendly. So you have to consider all these points like the life, then its user friendliness, how it is comfortable to the customers, as well as sustainability. Sustainability design like in mechanical design is very good, no problem. But in software design, the need and requirement is changing day to day. And you should be always updated. And accordingly, you have to take into consideration while doing any software development. I always tell one story to my students. Okay, how the design affect the that happens is a quality. Okay, they have made the awareness to improve for improvement of the quality, and accordingly nowadays they are at the worst quality of the Japanese people during 1960s, 70s. That was also reflected in one of the movie song. हिंदी मूवी मध्ये एक सॉन्ग होतं आपल्यामध्ये, राज कपूर पिक्चर होता. ओके, एनीबडी नोज दॅट सॉन्ग? Based on the quality, worst quality of the Japanese people during 1960-70. मेरा जूता है जपानी, मेरी पतलून है हिंदुस्तानी. That means त्यांच्या क्वालिटीला त्यांनी त्या ह्याच्यामध्ये सॉन्ग मध्ये रिफ्लेक्ट केलं होतं. ग्रेट. दॅट टाइम जो कोणी लिरिक्स होता, जो कोणी गीतकार होता, he reflected the quality of the Japanese product. But later they have made lot of changes and now they are at the topmost. Similarly, the Japanese people thought that why not we can enter into the idol making, Ganesh idol making. And accordingly they have prepared the mold. Ganesh Murti mold मध्ये बनवतात. Might be you have seen that. They have prepared the mold. It was excellent one. Design was, quality, each and every details was provided into the design. And they launched the launch म्हणून स्वीकृती होणार नाही गणेश मूर्तीला. त्यांनी गणेश मूर्ती मार्केटमध्ये okay visited that shop, see and move away. So what was the missing in that design? What is the requirement? Normally what the people prefers while Ganesh Murti market मध्ये घेताना, that is a design point. No, you have to take care of customer also. You have to of the customer. So that was missing in that design. Normally what ते करण्यासाठी तर काय बघतो आपण तीच लोक घेतो ज्याची सोंड लेफ्ट हँडला असते. अँड सोन जे होती त्याच्या डिझाईनमध्ये दॅट वॉज ॲट राईट हँड साईड. अँड ते आपण आपल्या ह्याच्यामध्ये संस्कृत so that point is also applicable for design and development of the software. Same thing happens with even the consultancy was given by your HOD as well as by their HOD Rathod sir to one of the problem which was provided by the developer. The need requirement and accordingly you have to develop the softwares. We distribute will cover all the topics as per the need requirement of the society.
You first open that, then we'll start with. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm very happy. Them since more than 15 years, right? Okay. back, so I had applied to ACM India Eminent Speaker Program and my application was rejected. But after 10 days, I got a mail from Roy. At that time, he was senior director at Flipkart Research. Later on, he joined as CTO of a mail from Yogesh Simhan. He mentioned that, okay, so only and you can become. Okay. Now, next. After that, I am also active in Python. Then I said, hello sir. He said, nothing, I just wanted to say hello to you. So imagine the feeling, right? Who has created one of the feeling, right? Then next, who created Python language? Who created Python language? What is the name of the person? Gajendra Deshpande. Okay, Dutch programmer. And I had the opportunity to meet him in person and listen to him for 2 hours in 2023. Okay, at US. Now, you may ask, how I am getting such opportunities? It's very simple. You have to be part of such communities. Okay, be a part of Python community. If Python community is not there, create one in your city. Take lead, be organizer, be volunteer. Okay? So that's how you get the opportunity. And these open source communities, they don't care who you are. Whether you are a faculty, whether you are a student, whether you are unemployed, whether you are a small kid. I have seen 7-year-old kids giving talks at Python conferences. I have seen 9th grader presenting a poster at JuliaCon. They don't care who you are. Right? And if you get the opportunity, go and present your talk. And best part is you will get the opportunity to meet such people. You cannot get the appointment of Gajendra Deshpande. You cannot get the appointment of Dr. just like that. But you can directly go and meet them and say hello to them, talk to them without any appointment. Okay, so that's a great thing. And again, when you're applying for these scholarships, they'll ask few questions. Okay. What is your contribution to open source community? What is the benefit we will get? What is the benefit you will get? To answer those questions, you need to okay? Will help you to grow. Okay? Of course, after this talk, I think 20 minutes are allocated for to answer your question. Okay, you can ask me any question, no problem. Okay, not related to topic. Okay, so now today I am going to talk about something commonly occurring problems in the industry. Okay, so one example to be the self-learner like Eklavya. Right, you know who is Eklavya. Right, in Mahabharata that character comes. Right, and who taught him the archery? No one, self-taught person. Okay, now if you start learning on your own archery, right, or any skill, 90% of the people are going to make same mistakes. Okay, because there is no application, right? They are all on their own, but they are going to make same mistakes. What if there is a coach? What if there is a mentor? If they can tell that, see, you are going to do web development and you are going to do these mistakes, right? Don't do these things, right? Do this. Okay? So with that you will be able to right? Comes here is you have given one prompt, right? It has given you the results, it has created some application, you are going to deploy it, you are going to test it, right? After testing it, you will realize that okay, I am missing this. You will again go to the next prompt, add those things, right? Again you will generate the next set of code, you will deploy it, and again you will see the result, and when you see the result, again you will feel that you are missing something. So this process continues. Okay, this process continues. And after 15-20 prompts, right, AI will start hallucinating, right, and it will forget its purpose and it will start giving something else. right? Now why this is happening? Because you are not investing, right, in understanding the requirements of the customer. Okay? So understanding the requirements of the customer is very, very important. Now why we people make mistakes in design? The problem is we don't have the knowledge of the domain. Now you may ask, what is domain? Domain does not mean network, it does not mean operating systems or cyber security or AI. Okay, domain means real world domain. Education is the domain, insurance is the domain, banking is the domain. Okay? So if you want to develop a software for a particular domain, you need to understand, right, exactly how that particular domain functions, how that organization functions. If you start making your own assumptions, right, you will end up with something. Okay, so that's the problem. So there is one famous joke in software industry, right? So few people went to a software company and they gave a requirement. We want to build a big animal. So big animal is black, right? It has 4 legs, 2 big ears, right? 2 eyes, 1 trunk and so on, big stomach and so on, right? So they gave the specification. And what the company delivered? They delivered a buffalo with a pipe. They attached pipe to the face and they delivered it. And they said, okay, you asked for a black animal, there's a black animal, big animal, big animal. Because they didn't specify how big it is, right? So you wanted one trunk kind of a thing, we have attached a pipe. So that is compliance oriented. You see why this happens? Because you people will not be having the knowledge of the domain. Okay? Or let's say a very simple example, right? So nowadays most of the institutions give you something called as CGPA or SGPA. Correct? Right? So can anybody tell me, or how many of you are aware of how CGPA is calculated, how SGPA is calculated? If you are not aware of the process, if you are not aware of the formula, you will not be able to even generate a simple mark sheet. Okay? So understanding this domain knowledge is very, very important. So when you join a company, it is not just your technical skills or programming skills. That comes later. It is the domain knowledge. Okay? So just, I think last week I wanted to recruit few people, and to one of the candidate I gave a task. The task was you have to use a software called as Odoo, so that's an ERP customization software, and configure a salary slip. And I gave her 24 hours. So after 24 hours, she connected to me and started demonstrating the things. So there was only one figure, salary, 45,000. I asked her a simple question, how you have arrived at the number 45,000? Okay, so she was unable to answer. Okay. So whenever you are configuring the salary slip, you need to understand the different components. What's the basic pay? What's the HRA? What's the DA? What are the different types of allowances? What are the different types of incentives? Then what are the different types of deductions like PF, ESI, taxes? Right? So calculate everything and provide a net salary. Okay, so forget about the configuration in the software. But even if the person is able to explain this, right, that person can be hired. Okay, so having this domain knowledge is very, very important. So my advice to you people is, right, start learning about these non-technical domains. See, we software engineers, we develop software for others. Okay, we are developing software for travel and tourism. We are developing software for hospitals. We are developing software for banks, insurance sectors, education institutions, right, manufacturing factories. Right? So without understanding their processes, you cannot write even a single line of code. Okay, so that is very, very important. And believe me, if you have this kind of knowledge, any company will be able to hire you and you will get really, really very good job. And you will also progress fast in your career ladder. Okay. So now there is something called static analysis, right? So go to the next. Right. So what we do in static analysis, right? In static analysis, we analyze the code and try to identify the problems in the code without executing the code. Okay. So generally, what is the process? We write code, we execute the code, we see the output. Right. If we get the expected output, we continue. Right. Otherwise, we go back to the code and start debugging the code. That is the process. That is dynamic analysis. Okay, because there you are analyzing the output based on the behavior of the application. But here in static analysis, we are going to identify the problems, right, without executing the code. And it is very, very important. I'll give you one more scenario. In one of the IT companies in Bangalore, which was very famous for developing banking applications. Right, there one employee was there. He had written very nice code. This was 25 years ago, where SMS was costly. Right, where still banks were relying on book-based ledgers. Right. So banks were moving towards automation. Banks were moving towards IT. So there was one developer in that company. He had written a very nice code. Whenever there has to be some withdrawal, right, he used to transfer these small paisas to his account. Okay, so let's say for example you have 10,000 rupees, 1 paisa. He used to transfer 1 paisa to his account. Okay, so imagine how many accounts banks will be having? Lakhs, right? Even if he gets 1 paisa, 2 paisa, right, from each one of the accounts, how much money he will make? Okay, and how many people will literally go to the bank and complain, why you have deducted 1 paisa from my account? Right? Nobody. 1 paisa jaane de. Right? So that is the main problem. And how it was detected? It was detected during code review process. Okay, see, whatever code you write is not final. There are senior developers, right, who are going to review your code. There are code auditors who will review your code, who will audit your code, then approve your code. Only after that your code goes into production. Okay? So earlier, right, now the scenario has changed. Earlier, senior developers used to do this. But now, right, due to AI, due to advancements in AI, it has now shifted to junior developers. Okay, you as a junior developers, you are giving prompts, generating the code. Then who are going to perform code reviews? It is you. Okay, because AI will make mistakes. AI can make mistakes. The code AI writes is not perfect. Right? Even the smallest of the smallest mistakes can cost you a lot. I am going to show you some scenarios, right, from the history where even the smallest of the smallest mistakes, right, have costed millions, have costed lives. Okay. So how to detect such errors, how to detect such problems? You have to perform something called as static analysis. Okay. So whatever I am showing, right, these were incidents from the history. Right, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right, 40 years ago. But now we have got sophisticated tools. They can identify those problems. Right. Next slide. Okay, now you can see on this slide Mariner 1 mission failure. Right. So Mariner 1 was a spacecraft. It was launched by NASA on July 22, 1962. Right. So it was intended to fly by Venus and transmit data back to the Earth. Right. So however, shortly after launch, the spacecraft deviated from its trajectory. Next slide. Okay. Now what was the problem here? In the code, just 1 bar was missing. In the entire code, just 1 bar was missing on the variables. Right? In mathematical equations, you write bar, right, on some of the variables. In one of the equations, on one of the variables, just 1 bar was missing. and entire mission failed. Okay. Next. Right, see, outcome was the rocket had to be destroyed 293 seconds after launch. Okay, so next. Next one was Ariane 501 explosion, right, of 1996. So this mission belonged to European Space Agency, right. So this rocket exploded 40 seconds after launch. Right, again, what's the mistake? The mistake was 64-bit floating point number, right, related to the horizontal velocity. The rocket was incorrectly converted to 16-bit signed integer, right. You might have learned type conversion, very basic topic, right. You know that whenever you convert from lower type to higher type, there is no information loss, but when you convert from higher type to the lower type, there is information loss, right. See what mistake they had done. They had converted floating point to integer, information loss. So mission failed. Very small mistake, right? And your AI can make such mistakes. And if you directly put it in the production, your mission can fail. Okay, next slide. Right now, see here, you can see here the rocket self-destructed, so causing loss of approximately $370 million. Right, so now if you estimate today in 2026, it is much more higher. Next. Now the next mission was Mars Climate Orbiter of 1999, right? So it was lost as it approached Mars due to a navigation error. Now what caused the navigation error was the mismatch between the units, okay, in two software systems. See, generally when we develop software, it's not that everything belongs to only one code base, right? There will be different departments, there will be different softwares, and these softwares are developed using different technologies, okay? But there needs to be a communication between these different software modules. That is a requirement. That is, there is the IoT system, right, that will collect the data and it will work on C, C++. But if there is a web application, it will work on MERN stack or Python stack. Right? But both the applications need to talk to each other. Okay? So now that was the problem, mismatch between two software systems. Right? In previous slide. Right? See here, what was the problem? One system used something called as imperial system. So it had a measurement in pounds seconds. Other one used the metric units which was in Newton seconds. So you have to properly match the units. Right? Again, if you see here, right, they are not major mistakes, very small minor mistakes. Right? And we usually tend to ignore such mistakes. Right? So that's why you have to be very, very careful. There is something called as test driven software development, TDD, right? So what we do there is, right, we write the test cases before even developing the software. The moment we collect the requirements from the customer, the moment we draw the use case diagrams, the moment we create the project requirements document, our test document is also ready. Okay, so that means what? When you develop the software, you already know what to test, how to test, right? So with that you can avoid the problems, right? So this is even taught to you. Whenever you are writing the algorithm, you must know two important things: what input to be given and what output to expect. If you don't know these things, and then your algorithm will fail. It can't do anything, right? Next. Now again you can see here the outcome was a complete loss with cost estimated of $125 million. Next. Okay. So they were about space missions. Now this is something different. There was a machine called as Tilak 25, right? So it administered the lethal doses of radiation to patients due to software errors, right? So resulting in several deaths and injuries. Right? So you know when the radiation is given. Radiation is given to cancer patients, right? It's used in cancer treatment, right? So it administered the lethal doses of radiation. Next, right? Then what is the problem? The race condition and inadequate software safety checks, right? So led to the erroneous machine states and incorrect radiation levels. Next, okay. Now, in such case, right, apart from life loss, apart from financial loss, there is also a reputation loss, right? When multiple people lose their life, there will be lots of legal battles, right, which the company needs to fight. Next. The next, the Patriot missile failure. So this happened in 1991, and again a software error. It led to the failure to intercept an incoming Scud missile, right? So resulting in the loss of 28 soldiers' life during the Gulf War. Okay. Again, what was the problem? The problem was the cumulative timing error caused by floating point arithmetic inaccuracy. Right? Again, a small mistake, not a great mistake. Next. Right? So outcome was the missile was not intercepted, so leading to the casualties and damage. Next. Now, this is a US map, and you can see here in US map there are some areas that have been highlighted in the red color, right? Or you may be able to see the orange color, right? Now, what had happened in those areas was total blackout. Blackout means they lost the power, right? In US, you cannot imagine such scenarios, right? They will imagine such scenarios only during war. Okay, they'll feel that okay, if there is no power, means someone has attacked them, right? And because of that, it has created a lot of panic in those multiple states, right? So again, what was the problem? Right? Next, the problem was the software bug in the alarm system that failed to alert the operators, right, to a need to redistribute power after transmission line overloaded and shut down. Okay, so the software bug, right, that failed to alert the software operators. Okay, again a small problem, right? In India it's common, power cut common, right? But in those countries it is problem. Next. Now again, so major blackout affecting millions of people and causing significant economic damage. Okay. Next. Now, so these were some scenarios which we have seen, right? So that's why we are going to do something called as static analysis, right? So if you see the definition, it is nothing but the method of examining and evaluating the code of a software program without executing the program itself. Okay. So now, right, from now onwards you should also start reading the code. Okay, if you start reading the code, you can identify such problems very easily. Okay. So now we say that whenever we want to improve our language skills, English language skills, Marathi language skills, or Kannada language skills, or Hindi language skills, or any other language skills, right, people suggest us to read a lot. Now if you want to improve your coding skills, if you want to improve your review skills, code reading skills, you have to read a code lot. Writing code is one thing, but you also have to learn to read the code. Now you may ask question, right? In language there are novels, there are books, right? I can read them, but where to read the code, right? Go to GitHub, go to GitLab. There are many open source packages and their source code is open, right? Just simply visit those repositories, right? Start reading the code, right? See the folder structure, how they organize the folders, right? Open any random file, see how they have written the code, how they have created a class, how they have created a variable, right? How they have created a subclass, how they have organized the code, right? So that's how you can improve your skills. Okay? Right? So that is one best thing. Go to GitHub, right? Open the repositories and start reading the code. And unfortunately, there are no courses which can teach you how to review the code, how to read the code. Okay, and if you are interested in coding, right, there is also something called as contributors guide. Click on that, read the documentation, and there are some mentors over there, contributors over there, ping them. If you want to be a contributor of that single line to Python language, maintainer of NumPy package, right? So that is enough. Right? It's done. I have contributed lines to Python language. Right? You are all beginner, right? You can't okay, you can't go to these repositories and start writing more complex code. It's not possible. Right? So just go to these repositories. Doesn't mean you need to always write code. Okay, if you are good in graphics, you can create graphics. Okay, so she gave a keynote address at PyCon India. Her name was Mars Lee, right? And she used to write comics. Okay, so you may ask, right, what comics creator will talk about Python in Python conference? Okay, so what Python community did, it identified her skills, it mentored her, and it made sure that she created comics for NumPy. Okay, you just go to Google and search for NumPy comics, you'll get a NumPy comics book. Right? That's how a comic creator became a Python contributor. Okay? So anyone can become open source contributor. Okay? So you just go to those repositories, go to those links, right? Just find how to contribute link and you'll get all the details. Okay. So we also call it as code review. So code review, you have all the information. Okay. Next. Now, what are the key aspects here? So it is non-execution based, right? It can be used in automation, right? It helps you to detect the problems early, right? Next. Okay. Now, what are the types of checking you can do, right? So you need to check for the syntax. Of course, there are tools now, compilers, interpreters, right? When you compile the program, they will only check the syntax, and if there are any problems, they will only notify you, right? You need not have to do it, right? The next you have something called as type checking, right? Here you need to verify that the variables and expressions, right, are used consistently with their declared types. Right? So if you declare a variable at one place integer, another place float, it's a problem. Okay. Now there are programming languages which allow you to do that. And how they allow? They allow you to do that by redeclaring the variable. Okay. In one place you may have array with 100 elements, and in some place you have the same array with 200 elements. That is allowed by redeclaration. Okay, so in that case you have to be very, very careful. Right? Then you have to measure the different aspects of the code, such as complexity, right, and identify the code difficult to maintain. Right? See, what is difficult to maintain code? I cannot have a function with hundreds of lines of code. Okay, function should be atomic. Function should do only one task at a time. Okay, when you write a function, the complete function should be visible on your screen. Right from the function header to the closing bracket. Right? The complete function should be visible on the screen. So this principle is called as keep it simple and short. Okay. Now, on some people PCs or in some cases it is not possible to see the entire function in a single screen. So that's why some geeks, what they do is they rotate their screen. Instead of horizontal screen, they'll have vertical screen and they see the complete code. Okay, so some people do it. Okay, then there is also something called as security analysis. So detecting potential security vulnerabilities such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting flaws. Okay, now you might have heard of injection. Okay. So now the major cause of SQL injection is whenever we are accepting the user input, right? So string concatenation is the major problem whenever we are handling the data received from the user. So you should never concatenate the strings, right? Especially the user inputs. Okay. Then what is the solution? There is something called as query parameterization. Right? So you need to use such techniques, and you also need to perform something called as data validation, input validation. Input validation is done at various places. It's done at client side, it's also done at server side. Okay? You cannot push everything on the server. There will be a lot of traffic on the internet. Right? Let's say there is a form and you need to validate the form. Right? And login form has got two important fields, username, password. And what are the possible inputs for usernames? Your email ID, mobile number, right, or some alphanumeric string. Right? So these things can be checked on client side itself. Right? If you are checking the mobile number, check whether 10 digits are entered. Exactly 10 digits are entered. Not more, not less. Right? When you are entering email ID, check the presence of at and the dot symbol, right, before and after the string, right? Then similarly with respect to password, you can check the length of the password, you can check the strength of the password, right? So these things can be checked on client side, but once the user enters the input in correct format, then the data can be sent to the server, and on the server you can check whether whatever username and password has been entered by the user, is it present in the database? If it is present in the display the dashboard, display the timeline, display the inbox. Okay? So your validation has to be split between client and the server. Right? Now, whenever you want to set a password, there are some characters which are not allowed as part of the password. Plus is not allowed, single quote is not allowed, double quote is not allowed. Okay, equal to is not allowed. So these symbols are not allowed, hyphen is not allowed. Okay. Why? Because these characters can be used for hacking. Okay. See, hyphens are used to create comments in SQL. Okay. So if I allow hyphens in the username or if I allow hyphens in the password, right? I am making sure that the password field is entirely commented. With only username I will be able to log in. Okay. So that's why such characters needs to be disallowed. Then coding standards. Okay. Now there are thousands of people who are working in the industry, right? And in that case, if everyone start writing the code in her own way or in his own way, it becomes very difficult to maintain. Okay? And you are not permanently in that company. Once another company offers a good package, you'll switch to that company, right? Then what the other person should do who joins in your place, right? So that's why what companies do is they define something called as coding standards and conventions. So they clearly mention in the document, you have to declare variable like this only, you have to create functions like this only, this is the way to nest, you have to use only 4 spaces for nesting or 8 spaces for nesting. Okay, and if you are not following it, right, code reviewers and code auditors will make sure that you follow it. Otherwise your code will not enter into production. Okay. So in Python, if you go to a standard called as PEP 8, PEP stands for Python Enhancement Proposal, right? 8 is the proposal number. Okay. So now in case of PEP 8 usually talks about the coding standards and conventions with respect to Python language. Now whenever you are writing the equation, and when the equation spans multiple lines, right, the operator should come first, not at the end. This is the convention. Okay. And you may ask, it is so difficult to remember those things. Correct. You don't have to worry. Right? There are already tools. Right? You write the code however you want. You use those formatters, and they will format your code according to the standards. Okay. So in Python language, there is a formatter called as black. You use black formatter, it will format your Python code. Okay, as per PEP 8 standard. So like that, there are 2, right, for every language. Okay, be it any language, be it C++, Java, any language, right? Okay, next. Benefits. So benefits will be improved code quality, right? Then enhanced security, then cost savings, then consistent code base, right? Then compliance. Now what is consistent code base? Again, there are multiple people who are working on the same code base, right? On enterprise projects, hundreds of developers will be working, right? Then how are we going to make sure that code base is safe, right? I am making changes, right? Masumalam is making some changes. Right? You need appropriate syncing softwares. You need people there. Right? So that's why if you have worked on GitHub, right, it has a very nice feature. Right? Whenever you make contributions to GitHub, right, you are going to raise something called as PR request. If everything works fine, then only he will merge to the main code base. So that is how you can maintain the consistent code base. That is one way, one of the methods. Okay. Then compliance, right? See, whatever code you write, right, it should comply to some standards. It's not only about your coding standard, right? It may also comply to cyber security standards. Right? So you might be knowing that the HTML language, right, which is used to develop web pages. But how many of you know that there is a version of HTML that's called ISO HTML? Okay, HTML language that complies to ISO standards. Right? So you can use those standards and write the web page as per ISO standards. And there are tools again, which will check whatever code you have written, is it as per HTML5 or HTML 4.01 transitional, right? HTML 4.0.1 strict, right? So there are online tools, you can use them. Next. Right? So now these are the different types of static code analysis you can perform. So we will not discuss in detail these things. Next. Okay. Now syntax analysis. What are the tools? Compilers and linters. Okay. So both tools will help you to identify the grammatical problems of the programming language. Okay. And linters are there for every language. Linters and compilers are there. Okay. Then similarly, you have something called a semantic analysis. Right. So you have advanced linters here, which can have the semantic capabilities. So they ensure that variables are declared before use and function arguments match their definitions. Okay, so these are the capabilities your advanced compilers or advanced linters will have, right? Next. Right, so similarly you have type checkers. Again, it is integrated into compiler, right? So it ensures that integer variable is not assigned a string value. Next. Then there are tools which will check the flow of the data in the program. Okay. So this will help you to identify unused code blocks. Right. See, before AI, right? So now AI is there, so you are writing the code using some prompts. But earlier, right, before AI, right, whenever people used to make changes to the code, they used to comment the code. Okay, they used to comment the code, then make the copy the same code block, make modifications. If it works, fine. Otherwise, uncomment the previous code, then comment the next code. Okay, so this process was followed repeated. Okay. So now in that case, right, if the code works, it was quite obvious that many people could leave the code just like that. Even though your code was working fine, even though you were getting the output perfect, but still there were unused statements in the code. Okay. So if there are unused statements in the code, it will automatically add to the time complexity of the program. Right? It will waste your execution time. Right? It will unnecessarily increase the number of tokens to be executed. Right? So you need tools to identify such code blocks and remove them. Right? So similarly, control flow. The code. Now there is something called cyclomatic complexity. The code make sure that, right, you use less and less if conditions. Okay? You use less and less if conditions. If you use more, right? In Python, there is something called as Pythonic way of writing code. Okay? So the entire loop, entire if statement can be converted to a single line. Okay, there is no nesting, right? Less variables, right? Less number of tokens. Your code will work faster. Okay, so you need to use the features of the language. Okay, next. Then similarly, security analysis. Right, every language has got these tools. There are some language related tools, there are language unrelated tools which can assess the behavior of the application. Next. Okay, so we'll see one of the examples here. Right, can you identify the problem in the code? What is the problem in this code? It is a Julia code, but it almost looks like Python code. Okay. So what is the problem? call as unused variable and the value 42 is assigned to it. Okay? So you may not be able to identify such problems easily. Okay? You need to have deeper analysis of the code. Okay, so then you will be able to identify the problem. Okay? Next. 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 Okay, next. 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 Okay. Not perfect. Even if you use AI, right? Tools are not perfect, right? And they can perform limited functionality. And there is no single tool which can perform all types of analysis. You may have to use code specific tools. Okay. Next. Okay. Go to the next presentation. Next presentation. Okay. Next. Okay. So now you have seen some examples how small mistakes can lead to the failure of big missions and how you can address them. Right. So we'll quickly go through, right, some of the problems with the code. Now can you see this building? Right. So this building is there in US, MIT. In 2022, not 2023. Okay, in 2023. Okay. So why I had put this building's picture was, right, it looked me like a anti-pattern. Okay. Part of the building is yes, right. So this building belongs to MIT. Next. Right. Next. Right. Okay. So what is anti-pattern? Anti-pattern means these are worst practices, right, which you should not follow while creating the application, while writing the code, right. These are opposite to design patterns. Next. Now purpose, so the purpose is to understand, recognize and avoid anti-patterns to improve code quality and maintainability, right. So maintainability doesn't mean just a single code, right. There will be thousands of programs, right. You need to have proper architecture. If your architecture fails, right, then you will not be able to write proper application. And many times, okay, please hear, many times your code may be perfect, but you might have not given appropriate permissions. Okay, maybe proper execute permissions are not there, or proper security permissions are not there, proper access control permissions are not there. In that case also your application fails. There may be another scenario, you have created the application, okay, and you have hosted on a server which can cater to only 1000 users at a time. But what will now reasons. So we'll go to the next step. Okay. The next is bug prevention and software reliability. Right. See, anti-patterns, they introduce hidden bugs. Right. And you need to identify these hidden bugs and remove them. Right. There may not be tools available for these things. Okay. Remember the example I had given, right, where person used to transfer small paisas to his account, right? It will pass all the test cases, right? It will not show any errors, right? But still that's a problematic code. Okay. Next, then performance optimization. Again, when we are writing the code, right, if we don't follow the best practices, right, that code will work slow, right? For example, let's assume that you are creating the web application, right? When we were students, we used to create applications using PHP, right? PHP for server side or JSP for server side application development, and on client side we used to have HTML, JavaScript, CSS, right? Integrate everything and build the application, right? Now if you use this practice, right, that's how we works also. To application development, it will collapse. Because there will be a single large file and multiple people will be accessing it and multiple people will be trying to solution. Frame any language, you have these frameworks, and these frameworks follow something called as MVC design pattern. So in web application development, if you don't follow these frameworks, if you are developing the applications without frameworks, then that's a anti-pattern. Must use frameworks. Frameworks that will optimize your that. What is the advantage? Backend developer will be working on his code base without worrying about what front end developer is going to do. Similarly, front end developer is going to work on front end aspect without worrying about what the backend developer is working on. Okay. So we are avoiding the to his code base. Flexibility, right? Now in YouTube you might have seen the ad from Scalar Academy, right, saying that do you want to understand how Ola handles so many requests per second, right? Do you want to learn it? Join our master class, right? You might have seen such advertisements, right? So that is what we are, right? See, the goal of computer science and engineering is to know that when the user base is increased to 100, when it is increased to 1000, when it is increased to 10,000 or 1 lakh or 1 million, that is going to work with the same performance. If not, okay, next. Next. Now, see, design anti-patterns, they are related to high level design decisions, right? So with only few prompts. It does things on its own, and based on its learning, it will add the feature. Right. So next is anti-pattern. Right. Now, so here monolithic systems have the poor scalability. So monolithic architecture, anti-pattern, God object, anti-pattern. So now again, you can't have a single application where everything is stored in a single code base. Or for example, say you cannot have a single table where all fields are there. Instead, you should have different tables, right? And you should have relationship between different tables, RDBMS. Right? Parent table, child table, primary key, foreign key, that kind of a structure you should have. But if you just have an Excel sheet, big Excel sheet, right, that's an anti-pattern. Okay? So similarly, I cannot have a single program. Right? Of course, single program will work. Right? Anyway, when we execute the program, it is the program that has main function that will start first. Our index file will start first. And we can write code in such a way that we can integrate everything into a single file and execute. But that code is not maintainable. Okay, that's the problem. Next. Then you have coding anti-patterns. So these occur at coding levels. So due to bad practices of programming, and it will also include something called as copy-paste programming and magic number anti-patterns. So we'll see what are those next. Then process anti-patterns. So it is related to the software development processes, right? And it will hinder the productivity and collaboration. For example, waterfall anti-pattern and heroic development anti-pattern. So what is waterfall? Waterfall model? You need to collect all the requirements in advance and then develop the software, which is not practically possible in real life. Okay, so that's why other methodologies like evolutionary programming or agile methodologies are used, right? Then heroic development anti-pattern. Single person will do everything, right? Your AI tools, right? You can also consider it as heroic development. Okay. Next. Now, you can see here, this is a non-optimized code. So can you find a problem here? There are some problems in the code. And when we execute this code, right, it is taking so much time, 0.277261 seconds. There are some problems here. Problem possibility that you may access non-existent elements. So I am saying here 1 to length of the array. I may say -1 to length of the array, -10 to length of the array. Right? So that's the problem. And second problem here is the use of, right? See, you should avoid using global variables in your program. Okay? Global variables have a different purpose, right? Let's say you are developing the application and you want to set some configuration settings. Then you create one file, add global variables there, and those settings are applicable throughout the application. That is fine. But here in this case, it's a problem. Okay? Next code. Now see here, the same code base, right? It is optimized. Now you can see here, we are avoiding the use of for loop. Right? Code is short now. There is no global variable, right? And there is no starting point also. And when you see the execution time, it is reduced. Okay. So now, since I am running out of time, so I can close the lecture here. But whatever 2 lectures I have given, right? Recording of both the lectures is available in the YouTube. Okay. So these talks have been already given in the MIT. So you just go to YouTube and search this static analysis in Julia, and by my name Gajendra Deshpande, you will get the link. Again, same anti-patterns in Julia, Gajendra Deshpande, my name, right? You will get the link and you can watch these complete videos. I am okay to share these PPTs also, right, with your ACM chair, right? So you can collect it without any problem. Okay, any questions? So I can take up questions now. I hope I have given you some useful information. Okay. So I would like to take up some questions. You can ask me any question.
If anyone has any questions, kindly raise your hand. Volunteers will provide the mic.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah. So we know that modern LLMs are mostly trained on billions and billions of data, and we can maybe even safely assume that even LLMs know the best patterns which are used to make software. So my question is that why don't we rely on LLMs on our code base to let them scan the entire code base, find out the faults, and let them fix themselves? Because in your examples as well, the conversion of float to int where human error.
Examples, right, where even some of the smallest mistakes, right, have failed the missions. Okay. Yeah. And the problem they programming. See now the problem, right? English is not our mother tongue. Okay. So whenever we are talking in English, we are first thinking in mother tongue and then converting it into English and then talking. And most of the programs are not written in our mother tongue; they are written in English. The errors and debug it, right? There are 2 problems. One is error solving, second one is logic. Okay. So now there is something called as problem solving. Okay. So if you want to improve your skills, first write the program on the paper, trace it on the paper, right? Once you are sure that you are getting the on paper, then you proceed to writing the program. Okay. This is a usual practice which we are doing since ages. Okay. Now if you want some modern tools, there is a software called as Flogorithm. Okay, there is a software called as Flogorithm. It's free software, you can install it on your system, where and execute flowchart. Okay, you need not have to worry about the syntax of the language. Just focus on dragging and dropping the flowchart symbols, right? Setting the flow, execute. That will also help you to improve your logic building. Okay, and there are some good books. You should read those good books, right? And it will help you to change your thinking. For example, there is a book called as How to Solve It by Computers. Okay, How to Solve It by Computers. Author name is R.G. Dromey, Dromey. Right? So get this book, read it. Okay, and apart from this, there are some classic books in computer science. Right? So start reading them. There is a very classic book called Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs, short for SICP, right? Written in 70s and 80s. Read it. Okay, so use logarithm, right? Yes, another question. Yes, I am open to any question. I think he has some question.
Sir, we have some frequently asked questions from the registered students for the event.
Sure.
Other questions.
Sure. So how in this era of AI? Okay. See, AI will speed up the software development process. You can write code faster. Okay, but it cannot think on its own. Okay, you have to write the prompts. Right? And you cannot write too long prompts also. And you cannot write too short prompts also. So prompts should be unambiguous. Okay, and it will not according to your instructions. You have any question? Yeah, he has some question. Maybe I'll answer this, after that you can ask. Okay, after this question we can take it up. Okay, right? If you are interested in contributing to AI, then you should read research papers, right? And convert the equations to code. Okay, so that's what contributors to TensorFlow, contributors to scikit-learn, right, are doing. Right? So you can be successful if you have the domain knowledge. Okay, so start learning about other domain. Okay, that is important. Yes.
While coding, most of us use built-in libraries for developing software to the language communities by developing our own libraries.
Okay, fine. Now, why you should be using built-in libraries? It's already of the design pattern. Okay, you should use. If you start writing your own libraries, right, for the things which are already existing, right, then that's a problem. Okay, so whenever there is built-in function in the language, use it. Okay, but if that library is not available, you are free to create your own library. Okay, and the way to improve the existing built-in library is read research papers, right, see what are the developments they have done, right, and incorporate that. Okay, so that is the only solution. So that's what contributors to other packages are doing. Okay, so you have to read the research papers, see what developments are there in that field, So you can't say that first I'll develop, first I'll learn and then I'll develop. It's not possible, especially in software development. Right? You are going to work on different projects. Maybe frameworks, right? These scenarios, right? For this particular scenario, you need to use this pattern. It's already set. You just need to master that one cheat sheet. Okay, that's enough. Next.
Thank you so much. For innovation have left us inspired.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the session and gained valuable events and learning your things. Until then, have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you everyone.